Hi, and welcome to BMIT's new series on the Digital Operational Resilience Act, or better known in the industry as DORA. If you work in the financial services sector, I'm sure you have heard of DORA. The Act, which comes into force in 2025, targets organizations primarily in the financial services sector. However, its principles, IT governance, risk management, cybersecurity, building resilience, are also crucial for every business in today's digital age. DORA is a very stringent new piece of legislation. It has numerous chapters, numerous requirements, and one of these requirements is to have a very strong communication and incident management strategy to both address IT disruptions and also to minimize their impact on the organization. Now, having effective incident management and clear communication channels are extremely critical, not only for compliance, but also to maintain stakeholder trust and business continuity. And to address this very, very interesting topic, often not discussed enough, I have BMIT's product manager, Galea, and BMIT's senior GRC expert, Cyrille Aubergier. Cyrille, thank you very much. Ivan, my first question, probably most people would be asking is, what is an incident?
Thanks for the invitation first. An incident is an event that has an impact on the service that you are delivering. So it can be adversarial, it can be accidental, but you are limited on the service that you are delivering, so there will be some impact, financial impact and other impact. And an incident have an impact on the company.
So so you have an incident, it could be irrespective of whatever may have caused it. Some organizations maybe tend to not say anything, just sweep it underneath the carpet as if nothing happened. Obviously, with DORA, that is certainly going to have to change. There are clear steps that an organization has to take. But why is communication so critical during IT incidents?
So there is two things. The communication inside the crisis. This is critical to manage any crisis in life. So it is the same for any IT incident. You are in a situation where you're not comfortable. There is unexpected action and you have to improvise. The reference is not from me, but this is like jazz music. Everybody know the music, know the instrument, but they all have to improvise all together to manage, to provide a piece of music. So that's the point of the communication.
So obviously communication is we know its importance, but Ivan, how do you see communication playing such an important role?
Well, I think it's obviously it's being given from the legislation or specific standards. They push quite a lot on communication. There is the obligation of being transparent nowadays, or sharing the information with the right channels and authorities. But going a step back with regards to internal communication, it's making sure that you have the right people, the right resources at the right time, and having that awareness, that awareness during the incident, sharing updates, making sure that everybody is in line, in sync, in order And the only objective is to get out of that service disruption into bringing back your operations to the previous state, so to speak.
So, Cyrille, let's take a hypothetical situation. An organization suffers a data breach, for example. Now you require incident management. So what are the steps, but also what are the best practices to handle incident management? So what are the real requirements that you need to be able to handle this properly?
That's true that when an incident is in relation to data subject, this is different. You have to declare the incident first. That's linked to the GDPR regulation. You have to declare the incident, but you have also to declare the people that has been affected or potentially affected by the breach. So we have to communicate with these people, and obviously customer if this is related to your customer. So the difference is you have to declare it, and you have to protect people that may have consequences of this leak.
To the right stakeholders.
The right stakeholders.
I mean, if there's a data breach, the data is it's the customer's data, they need to be aware of that breach. If it's a service disruption from, let's say, a service that a third party is offering, they need to make aware that current service is down or under maintenance or so on and so forth.
Now, in most of these cases, we would have an incident response team. Obviously, their role is clearly defined. They know what they need to do. But what I'd like to ask Cyrille is, what role does management play? We've heard in previous videos the importance of management having a clear role, the importance of management. When it comes to incidents management, incidents response, how important is the role of management, and what role do they actually play?
So in any incident, especially when there is consequences with data subject, you have to elevate the incident to a crisis. And this crisis is managed by the chief. As soon as you have to communicate with customer, as soon as it may have a financial impact, as soon as it will affect the revenue of the company, or maybe you will need some specific budget to handle this crisis, you have to apply the management. And one good exercise when you want to involve the management is to do a tabletop exercise. That's a virtual exercise where we have all the management in the same room and playing a virtual scenario. What you're going to do in such situation, you communicate with that people, etc., etc. That's a very nice example to do, exercise to do, to explain it to the chief.
And this is something that is made very clear in DORA, having the proper setup, the proper people, the right people to handle this. Does this change things for businesses?
But at least they're aware of the responsibilities. They're aware of the situation. They're aware that they will have to take some decision, some strong decision. I will give you an example. You have a service that is affected, that has been compromised. Are you stopping the service with the financial impact? Are you still keeping the service open with consequences? So this is decision they have to take.
And it's also ensuring that the right people are informed at the right time. So I think the flow of information, Ivan, how information flows and the timeliness is also important here. It's not just a question of, okay, he's on the list, I need to phone this particular person. It's also what type of information is being sent to the individuals who are responsible.
Yeah, it needs to be orchestrated in a certain way. I mean, again, taking a step back, I would say you first implement an incident management policy. The incident management policy will define what is an incident to an entity, what is the level of or types of incidents, and then you do the risk assessment, or you have an exercise where you identify possible incidents that may occur, and that will allow you to have a proactive approach. So I'll get to why I'm saying this towards the communication part, the communication policy or the communication plan. So you start with identifying the possible incidents, and you therefore have a proactive approach by simulating these incidents. And when you're simulating these incidents, then you're going to identify who are the key stakeholders, who is part of the response team, the flow of the incident. So again, what server needs to go up first, who needs to be communicated in between, who needs to be in sync, you're creating the channel, what channel you are using. These are all things part of the incident management policy, but also you're going to implement a communication policy as well. And that communication policy is not, or communication plan, I'll go on the plan, not the policy, but the plan, can be incident based or based on the type of incident. So you can have multiple types of communications, because if you have an incident based on a particular service, you might require the SysOps team, right?
This is one of the points, sorry to interrupt, I would like to add is one of the good practices is to have an inventory. You start to have an inventory, know what asset do you have, focusing on the data. If you don't know what you have inside your perimeter, how do you want to handle an incident? And for the rest, I totally agree, to have a clear policy applied and tested. You cannot say that you have a policy, an incident management policy, if you never tested it. And testing a policy is the only method you have to improve your process.
Interesting, you mentioned the tabletop exercises earlier. Now, how do you go about incident management and communication, obviously, and the response within a small organization that may not have the resources to carry out a tabletop exercise, to have a full-blown incident response team, and yet to be compliant, they are required to do so. So how does a company prepare itself for incidents, even if it is lacking the resources to have maybe what we would consider a bank's incident response management to be like?
I don't think this is complicated to make a TTX exercise, a tabletop exercise. It just takes 2 hours of each chief and to make the discuss. I don't think this is the complicated part. The complicated part will be more to have the policy enforced and approved. For the incident, another point on the communication, that's the purpose to have a security policy is to educate people about what they have to do and to escalate. If there is nothing suspicious, nothing that should be notified, escalate to your manager. So from the top, we talk about this exercise. We can do this technical exercise where it's focusing on the technical side. So we have some data and trying to figure out from which server is coming out, why it has been leaked. So there is multiple ways to practice incident. And I don't think this is related to the size of the company. Even from small company, this is feasible.
I agree, but at the same time, I think it depends on the capacity of the organization, how many simulations they can go through. And this is, again, defining within your incident management policy. Okay. First of all, identifying the possible incidents, scoring the risk of those possible incidents and the impact that the organization will incur, so to speak, and then saying, I want to test incident type A, incident type B, and incident type C, for example, and then you run the simulations and you prepare for those. Obviously, if it's the risk of that incident happening is low, it's not something that you want to go full on doing a tabletop exercise for. You will most probably focus on the high and critical risks that will eventually occur.
Totally. The thing is not to know when you're going to be compromised or have an incident. The thing is how you're going to handle it, how much it's going to cost you. You have to be prepared as you can, whatever the size. And I agree that this is even more complicated.
That brings up 2 points, actually. At the Cybersecurity Imperative Conference, Inspector Clive Brimmer from the Malta Police Force complained, or really it was a complaint, that organizations do not report enough. Now, looking within the organization, many employees, when something happens, they are scared to go to the security team and tell them, I think I clicked on a link that may have been compromised, or I may have mistakenly given out my credentials. So how important is it to generate the culture within that organization to actually report incidents? That it's not going to, you're not going to be fired because you clicked on a link, but the chances are, if you report it, you're actually doing the organization something good.
So you're right. This is a problem. People are afraid to say they made mistakes. So when I train people, I explain that we will figure out this is coming from you one day or another. If it takes 1 week to understand it's coming from you, we're going to know it. So the quicker you report it, the better it is for everybody, because we will know you have been the weakest link at this point.
You mentioned the reviews. So we have an incident, there is a review. How important are those reviews to helping the organization in its future incident management response?
The lesson learned is the best to improve the process for real incident, but also for practice. So there is always things that not totally in line with the process. So let's learn lesson on everything you are practicing, and we're going to improve the process. Like I said, this is the only way to improve a process, is to test it.
Yeah, when you execute the plan, you will identify even changes that you might have done and not included in your plan. So your plan needs to be retweaked, re-enhanced, whatever. So you also will find specific vulnerabilities within your plan, right? If you made an infrastructure change, you got on a new software or something like that. I mean, it could be possible that your plans were not updated, and doing these tests will help you identify those gaps, which might have resulted in a longer time to roll back to the previous state, to the operation state.
Both of you mentioned an interesting point. You mentioned risk assessment, and it seems to be a common thread when we're looking at DORA. Where do we start from? But even from an incidents management perspective, even having an incidents response team, the starting point is assessing that risk, looking at your assets, looking at the critical systems that you have. Are those three the foundation of everything that we should be doing as an organization in relation to compliance with DORA, but particularly how they affect incident management in the organization?
Yeah, the risk assessment evaluate what can happen with the most impact will drive the way you're going to handle the incident. Totally agree. And the thing is, this is an ongoing process to assess risk. The risk that you have previous year may have changed. Technology change, the threat change, so that's normal that you are running ongoing risk. And that's also a nice exercise to do with the management. So what are you be the most afraid of? What service you're gonna decide to pay a ransom? What are you afraid of? So that's the good question that management can ask themselves to evaluate where are the risks.
Thank you very much. That was extremely interesting. Thank you, Cyrille. Thank you, Ivan.
Thank you.
Thank you.